Greetings. I am an anti-sin advocate. These videos are not edited. They are AI assisted and read from script. Today's subject is part 2 of Christ, the crusher of evil. Our mind and body understood as God's temple created to be dedicated to God's dwelling place underscores a higher calling. Just as Christ didn't tolerate sin in the temple made of stone, we are urged not to tolerate sin within our fleshly temple, even more so than in the temples we, the people, use that are made of stone. This requires an ongoing commitment to inner discipline, where each thought and action is weighed against God's divine commandments, serving as our armor that protects our temple from contamination. This cleansing is not a one-time event. It's a continuous process as the world constantly introduces new temptations, new transgressions, and sinful activities. Just as Christ returned to the temple multiple times after addressing issues that needed correction, we too must regularly examine ourselves and have to be willing to cast out any emerging sinful thoughts or habits we take note of within ourselves. This vigilance is guarding our inner temple is essential in our walk as anti-sin advocates, where we recognize that unchecked sin not only dishonors God, but weakens our own sin-free integrity, sin-free resolve, and moral strength. Moreover, this process of cleansing is one of both inner purification and renewal. When Christ cleansed the temple of sinful acts, he restored it to its intended purpose, a space for worship, prayer, and commune with God, the same as being in oneness with the Father, dwelling together in the flesh. Similarly, by purging sin from our thoughts and behavior, we create a clear, open space within ourselves where we experience God's presence, peace, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. God's presence within and God's all-encompassing guidance more fully. Our minds, free from the clutter of sinful thoughts, become more aligned with God's divine perspective, fostering a state of inner clarity and receptivity to God's voice calling us, God's sheep following the shepherd's voice, to move in the order of righteous conduct, leading us home. This enlightenment of God's presence in ourselves requires diligent study, prayer, and scriptural reflection. As the Holy Quran says, the remembrance of Allah God is the greatest force that restrains evil. In this state of purity, our lives begin to reflect God's character more fully. Instead of succumbing to selfish desires or negative impulses, we act as vessels of God's love, peace, and happiness. By aligning with God's commandments and maintaining this state of cleanliness through our thoughts and behavior, we become an active living testimony, visibly demonstrating the power of righteous behavior. This is God calling us all to embody God's presence within ourselves. This ongoing cleansing and dedication also influences those around us. When others see the commitment and integrity we have in maintaining our temple for God's purpose, it becomes a silent witness, a form of evangelism. Our communication and behavior inspire others, and through our sin-free living, others are drawn to the same path of being a righteous example. As others begin seeking to purify our own or their own fleshly temple as well. Ultimately, just as Christ defended the sanctity of the physical temple, we are each called to defend the mind of Christ within our inner temple, not only through force against corruption, as Jesus did by kicking over the tables of wicked governance in principalities and high places. We are to do so by nurturing a life that exemplifies God's teachings of righteous behavioral instruction. This way, our very lives, our thoughts, actions, and words become offerings of worship and obedience, a testament to God's presence within us. Through this dedication, we honor God, not just in moments of worship, but in our continually lived expression of God's lawful will in our daily lives by living sin-free. As anti-sin advocates for righteous sin-free conduct, we are committed to eradicating evil, wickedness, and sinful behavior in all its forms, regardless of religious affiliation, much like Jesus, who was unyielding when he confronted the money changers in the temple. We too must take strong, decisive action against those who would corrupt the Constitution and sanctity of God's house. Jesus did not stand idly by while opportunists exploited a sacred place. Jesus did not stand idly by as opportunists exploited a sacred place. Instead, he acted forcefully to restore its honor and purity. In following his example, we recognize that sometimes bold measures are necessary to uproot the tyranny, the tyrants of sinful governance, and safeguard God's people, the integrity of God's kingdom, and the integrity of God's kingdom on this earth today.